Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is really a special one for me. I actually had the opportunity yesterday to interview Miguel Ribeiro. He is a freelance writer. Currently has several projects that that he's already produced through Mortem Studios, which is Grim Jim James Desborough's kind of label, if you want to call it that. And it was a really exceptional video. I really enjoyed it, and mostly I enjoyed it because I've never actually spoken to any gamers that were that are from Portugal, and that's where he does his writing. That's where he does his publishing from, and so it was really exciting to hear about his experiences as a gamer in Portugal, and just to hear about that scene. Now, before I switch over to where you'll begin watching that video, I will give you a little bit of a warning. My sound quality through the mic was once again coming through two different mics at the same time. That's because we had made a switch to Zoom, and I wasn't sure how to change that. So my sound quality through the mic was not very good, but you could still bear through it. His was perfectly fine. So that's really the most important thing, is that his sound quality is spot on, fine, and so I was really happy about that. Unfortunately, I didn't know until well after the interview, when I actually started watching it, that I realized that my sound was all screwed up. Now, I have since actually learned how to fix that, and so that should not be a problem going in through the future. So once again, thanks for joining. Enjoy this video. Really pay attention to what he's what he's saying about his experiences in the tabletop RPG, and I'm sure you're in for a treat. So it was really nice. And then I'll come in afterwards and and kind of wrap this up, show you the various places that you can go to buy his products. These are products that I have purchased myself as well, just waiting for them to come in the mail. And so I don't do interviews, and I don't push products that I haven't purchased for myself. And that's something that I will continue to do. And I really do stand by his work. So, and I'm sure that you will, you will, if you purchase his things, you'll be really happy for them. So without further ado, let's jump right into it.
Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. And today I have the great pleasure of introducing Miguel Ribeiro, who publishes game materials, RPG game materials, currently publishing with Postmortem Studios. He has many products on Lulu that you can pick up there, and what we're going to do is we're just going to have a conversation / interview, and talk about some of the projects that Miguel had previously worked on and what he is currently working on now. So without further ado, welcome Miguel. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I thank you. This is my first interview, by the way. At least on this side. I was a journalist before, so I did a lot of interviews, but I never answered the questions. I was always asking them. So it's a pleasure to be here.
I'll be really happy to hear your critique afterwards to see how I did as an interviewer, because I generally don't do interviews. I generally just go on and just talk and talk about my own things. I have done a few interviews along the way, but nothing professional. So that'll be really fun to hear your critique of it as well.
It looks professional.
So, yeah, I'm going to start. I'm going to start off with the they're very common questions.
Mhm.
So, how did you first become interested, or when did you first become interested in tabletop role playing games?
Well, I discovered it through Fighting Fantasy, I think. That's those one just to be played by one person, by the reader. Before I got into role playing games, then a friend of mine told me about Dungeons and Dragons, which was first translated into Portuguese in 1989, I think. At least that was when I found out about it. Before that, I never heard about role playing games, and but I found maybe I did as computer games, but not tabletop. Then I found it, and I discovered that I had an interest in it, and it seemed. I don't know. I just started when I was 15 years old, so it wasn't that early. So I could have started before. That's what I thought at the time. So I was missing something. So I started with Dungeons and Dragons. That was the first box set, the red box set. I bought it for my birthday or Christmas or something. And at that time it was a bit difficult because the only person I knew was interested in playing was the guy who told me about it. So it was difficult to find a group because, well, in Portugal there were people playing, but mostly in Lisbon. That's the capital. We live near the capital, but not that near. So this is suburbs. So, but there were people here playing, but we took some time to find them. I still play sometimes with those guys. Two of them at least. I didn't play all the time with them. My groups were different along the time, but the first guy who told me about is now working for my next release, doing the layout. So we kept we were friends before, so we kept in touch. Most of the others I lost touch with them. So that's it. 89 Dungeons and Dragons. After Dungeons and Dragons, I'm not a big fan of fantasy, so it's a strange thing for a role player. So after that, I was looking for something more realistic, horror. So I got Call of Cthulhu, but you probably want to ask me something more.
I mean, I can certainly see that transition going from one genre to the other if you're looking for a little bit more realism, and and that was something that we very similarly in my own group, although we started earlier than you, that was a transition that we also made. It was very simple or easy to go from Dungeons and Dragons to Call of Cthulhu. And then later on, we went on to a little bit more realistic, like Twilight 2000, and and those kinds of multiple genres. And that's something that I think a lot of older players, even though they're certainly not as old as I am.
I'm 46, not that young.
So I got about 10 years on you, and that's something that I think more old school players or players prior to the 2000s, let's say, there just seemed to be a lot more openness to go to different genres of gaming, not just tied to one game system, and that's all that we played. I can understand like the limited places to go to find places to for people to play. I have a very similar situation. Now that there's really no local places around me that really runs games or has that kind of a setting or a following. So I'm mostly online as well. But yeah, so there's a lot of similarities between our progression through and being on opposite sides of the Atlantic. It's nice to hear that people generally have the same kind of experiences within the hobby. So So let's talk a little bit about the horror genre, because I know that that's most of your writing, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
not just writing, also gaming. So then I discovered horror in role playing through Call of Cthulhu, but I wasn't a Lovecraft fan. I only read Lovecraft after started playing. I don't think he was that famous at the time. Now he is. Well, States, but not in Europe. Now he is, because there are lots of movies and TV shows and all that. But at the time he wasn't really famous. I liked, of course, I liked other horror writers like Edgar Allan Poe and Clive Barker. Not Stephen King, and I was never a fan. But still, horror was my favorite genre, also in movies.
right.
I'm mostly influenced by movies, not really books. I read a lot, but I'm much more of a cinephile than a reader now, especially about horror. So then, Call of Cthulhu is interesting, but it follows that investigation thing. It's pretty much the same thing all the time.
Right.
So I was wanting to do something else. Then we discovered the cult RPG, which was at the time it was a different thing. There was nothing like that. Mature psychological horror. So when I discovered Cult, it became my go-to game. Even though the rules were not that good, they remind me something of Traveler maybe, but it doesn't really work. But the first edition of Cult was very good. Very good. The current edition, it's powered by the apocalypse, so it's more narrative, but I don't really think it works for horror. It takes the game master's job, turns a bit to, I don't know. It's not enough for horror. So okay, so then Cult became my game, and all this I've written now for Postmortem Studios. Well, not all, but almost all was based on my own homebrew settings for Cult.
Okay.
Starting with Orpheum Lost.
Yeah. So you know, as I said, you know, I looked at some of your works, and we had a brief talk, you know, and we, you know, once I found out that you were, you know, you had several items that were built around horror and post-mortem, you know, I was already, you know, a fan of actual fucking monsters. Actually, you can't actually see it by that.
No, because
yeah, the blur.
The blur.
But yeah, I was really excited, you know, to talk to you about, you know, how you're writing for this game, because I really love this game. I thought that this game was something that really comes out and changes the way that you approach horror, you know. And if my viewers aren't familiar with this game, and I've done a video on this game previously, you take the role of the monster, and you're a real bad monster. I mean, there's no, you know, it's very brutal, and it's very, you know, it's designed that you're not going to last long, because you're going to be hunted down, and, you know, the goal is to do as much carnage as you possibly can before you are eventually killed. You are a real nasty being, you know, in this game. So
White Wolf for adults.
Yes, it's a, you know, so yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about
now I have to explain that I wrote for that game because that was the game that was available, and Jim thought this was, not the only one. It could have been Blood too. It's also by a Postmortem, but Actual Fucking Monsters is a more recent game, and it's probably the more adequate for this kind of scenario. They are more narrative inclined. Not blood is, well, it's second slash, so gore fest.
Right.
So the actual fucking monsters was more adequate. But there was a problem because actual fucking monsters means playing actual fucking monsters, and my scenarios, then my scenarios are to be played by humans. The players should play real people, regular people, not have powers. So the bad guys are the monsters, or no, it depends. So I had to adapt it to that. So there's no sanity because it wasn't needed for the actual game. So the monsters don't lose sanity, or they have lost it already. So, but well, mostly I use the statistics and stats. So there was not much of a problem. So I suppose you've already browsed through the scenarios.
Oh yes. You know, and actually, I ordered at least 2 of them off of Lulu. So you know, and I do want to put that out there, and I will attach that to this where you know, viewers can go and take a look at your products on Lulu.
They are on drive-through.
Yeah, and on drive-through as well, and. You know, although I think the Lulu was the physical, I'm not sure.
Yeah. The drive-through is just PDF, and Lulu is the physical object.
Yeah, I like having physical object, or I like having both, but I like having physical object. I'm just saying, you know, books, real books. You know, I like to use real books. And
that's the same here.
And the thing I was impressed about, you know, most of your works is that these were not short little books. They were pretty long. So, you know, why don't you tell us a little bit about that process?
I will tell you the story of this. So Orpheum Lost was not my of this published scenarios wasn't the first. I think I wrote first Saint Claude, Welcome to Saint Claude. But when I say wrote, I mean the original version, the Portuguese version, which wasn't published, was just played by my group. So, but Orpheum Lost was the first one I decided to translate to English and turn into a semi-professional job. That was 2 years ago, when I got fed up with X cards and safety tools and all that. Yeah, I had a bit of argument with people on Facebook groups, and I was annoyed with it. Annoyed with Cult, however, also, and the most commercial games. So I decided, well, I'm going to pick up one of my old scenarios, I'm going to translate it, I'm going to release it, self-publishing it, I was thinking at the time, and without X cards, without safety tools, because games are safe enough. You don't need those things. So then I translated Orpheum Lost, and I was in the process of laying it out, a very amateurish layout. I took pictures of me and my girlfriend, or wife. Well, we're not really married, but it's as if she was my wife. So we were just the two of us, and then I made the transformation with a couple of phone apps, so we could look different. I was using that. I released it later because as a funny thing, a character guide with several pictures. So I couldn't afford art and none of that. So, and I couldn't do a proper layout. So I was thinking, well, I'm going to do this in an amateurish way, the only way I can, and I'm going to release it through drive-through as a what you call them, pay what you want.
Yeah.
But before I did that, I went to a Facebook group where I usually talk. It's I think you're in there too. Joe Coombs group.
Okay.
It's a strange name.
Yes,
playing in the house or something.
Yes.
I was in there, and Jim was too. So I asked the question about what was the best way of self-publish my recently translated scenario, and Jim answered, and he said something about maybe it would be better if I first try to send it to someone who publishes, and well, it could help me. So I asked him if he was interested in reading it. I sent it to him, and apparently he was interested. So we started their collaboration. So that was the story of the first one. If you want to interrupt me.
That's really it's really good to hear. The process that writers go through in producing their first projects, and they're getting published for the first time, and it is something that many of us, like when we started gaming. That was always like the dream job, right? You started playing these games, especially as a young teenager, and I was like, oh, I really want to work for a game company. It always became something that, that was an aspiration to do, but usually not very realistic. You end up going into other jobs and other things like that, but I think that the hobby is much more accessible now.
Yeah.
Than it probably was back then, and that's the advantages of self-publishing and that kind of thing. And I guess there's a glut of things out there. It becomes hard to pick out as they say, the wheat from the chaff, and get the the really good things out there. There is quite a lot of clutter, but even that's a good thing. I think for the hobby.
Much choices.
You have tons out there, and it really does come down to personal taste. Like you were talking about, well, your products are written for adults. It's like white wolf for adults, as you described that. I really love that description too. And if you're writing for adults, your game is advertised for adults. You don't need as many of those safety rules, like you mentioned as well. It's like, well, you know what, this is really centered on or geared for much older audience. I can understand if you're writing something for 13 and under.
It's not for them.
But,
not this.
Yeah, it's not for them, and even the horror genre is really not.
Yeah. Kids don't like it. Well, I liked it when I was a kid, but I'm a freak.
Yeah. It's like so it's really interesting to hear, very similar attitudes, about, various genres and different approaches, and to hear the various steps to go to actually start self-publishing. And like I said earlier, I mean, your works are fairly, I think the first book, which I believe is your the rule book, let's say your homebrew, it's like 300 pages, so that's not a small book to put out.
Well, the first one was much smaller. The first one is 50 pages, about 50 pages.
Yeah, but even that is
it's not that not small.
That's not small.
Yeah.
So I was really impressed by. I was like, wow, 50 pages here, 300 pages there, and so on and so on. I was like, so these are not these little, 15, 20 page pamphlets that you'll see.
The first one, I basically translated it. I added a few stuff, but mostly it was already done a long time ago. The other ones are bigger because I added more things.
Yeah.
So I kept growing them while I was waiting for the first one to be published. I started working on the next ones. So actually I was going to pick up on something you said. I never intended to publish before, because, well, I'm Portuguese, my English isn't that good, I needed editing, and I'm here, so I'm not in the States. And back then it was, well, how could I get there? How could I publish something? I couldn't. I don't think so. Well, maybe I could, but I had no idea. And then, well, I haven't gamed all this time. I started in '99, but I have a couple of stops. along the way because there was no group, there was no one interested, and or I was too occupied when I was a journalist. I had more stuff to do, so I didn't have the time. So sometimes I stopped for months, maybe years, a couple of years. So I'm not the most experienced game master. I am experienced, but not that much, not as you, for example.
Yeah.
Well, writing is a different thing. Writing scenarios, I'm experienced enough to write scenarios, at least in this genre, which is the one I mostly played and game master. I was always the game master, so it's I didn't play that long, but I always game mastered because no one wanted to do that.
Right.
So I took the job.
That's a thing that happens a lot. Actually, it's like and that's an actual almost like a like a meme in itself is like always the game master because like you said, not a lot of people want to do it.
Yeah.
I kind of call us the select the 18% or so is the it's about the number of game masters out there, of the overall gaming community. It's roughly 18%, which makes sense because the average gaming group is about 5 players plus a GM. So that's roughly 18%.
My groups are usually smaller. I've always had problems in getting players because I'm not game mastering fantasy, so. Right. Fantasy or Call of Cthulhu or I game master Vampire a long time ago, so that's more popular. But still, Cult is the game I game mastered more. Not anymore, but a long time ago. So it was a bit difficult. People didn't want to play that.
Right? Yeah. No, it is a tough genre. If you're doing a Call of Cthulhu, and really Call of Cthulhu is it's huge in Japan, but elsewhere, it's certainly not, at the same level that it is in Japan. So, elsewhere it's certainly second or probably third as a genre. You probably go fantasy, science fiction, and then horror for that. And then you have the crossovers like Aliens, RPG, and probably someplace between sci-fi and horror, and so forth. But anyway, any experience with science fiction at all, or?
Yes, I have. One of us, the setting, the real setting I wrote is surreal horror and tech noir. Postcards from a Validad is based on David Cronenberg, William S. Burroughs, that kind of thing. So, William Gibson too. Though it's not cyberpunk, it's a biopunk maybe. I should call it's Burroughs punk because it's mostly based on Burroughs. Very strange, very surreal, very weird. So this one is near future, so it's sci-fi enough. I don't like space operas. I don't like I like movies, but I don't. But I played Star Wars. A long time ago too. So Star Wars, I played MechWarrior, which is probably strange. I picked it up because I was some people in the group were playing BattleTech, so I picked up MechWarrior and I was game mastering MechWarrior, but it wasn't. I used the rules and the setting, but it wasn't. They weren't playing really mech jokes. They were playing people in that universe. So I probably added a lot of things from my imagination to the game. And what else? I played Underground, which is something like sci-fi. It was based on comics, I think. I played some other stuff, really. I can't remember right now. But I played other sci-fi games. I like sci-fi. Cyberpunk 2020 also. I can't remember anything else.
How about like a computer RPG? So like what's a computer RPG in the last few years that you've actually played into? So like I know there's like a Mech Warrior online. So
Yeah, I've never played that one. Not online. I usually play the solo games.
Right.
I played a lot in the last years. Maybe Fallout, all the Fallout games, Mass Effect, Dragon Age. Though it's fantasy, but when I'm playing computer, I don't care. I play everything. Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, and Oblivion.
Right.
Can't remember the vampire game, Bloodlines, I think. Bloodlines.
Yes, Bloodlines is I've actually never played that, but all the other ones.
It's very good. That's very good. It's a nice story. Well, the game is full of bugs, but the story is very, very interesting. What else? Deus Ex, the new games, not the old one.
Right.
Because when the old game was launched, I wasn't really playing computer because I didn't have much time. So it was the last few years when I stopped being a journalist. I started picking up the games, but I didn't have time for the old ones. So I started from 2000 and something, and so Skyrim. Fallout 4 was probably one of the last games I played. I was trying to get into Cyberpunk 2077, I think, but I didn't find that interesting. I have played Witcher before. The first, the second, the third one I didn't like so much. Although most people loved the third Witcher, but it was too open world, and you start playing it, and then what am I doing here? I'm spending time, just spending time.
Right. Yeah.
The core story, it's interesting, but then it's too much stuff to do. So I like role-playing games in the digital format, not digital, in computer format. But now I've stopped playing also because these kind of games. So Mass Effect, Fallout, these are specific kind of game. It's very costly to make, not like those isometric things that are very popular because they don't need a voice acting, they need much less money for development, so there are few of those. So when I played all the ones from the last 10 to 15 years, I stopped, and probably I pick up some other game in the future, but right now I've been busy writing. There was even though some of these scenarios were partly already written, I've translated and added a lot of stuff, so it was since the beginning of the year, and also I spent a lot of time writing, so I didn't have time for other stuff.
So that actually kind of segues right into what I was going to ask next. So what is your next big project that you're really excited about putting out there?
So I have several stuff. Some of them are written already. After postcards, probably next week or next month or something like that, there will be a not a source book, a scenario book / source book for postcards. It will contain additional sector and some descriptions and a map for the city, because it was something that should have been done before, but I didn't have the time. So now I decided to pick up. I was writing an additional scenario, so I added also sanity rules for Punk, because Punk is the Post-Mortem Studios' new game. It's a retro clone of Action, so it's something similar to the Cyberpunk rules, so not exactly the same, but that's something like that. So, it has sanity, but not as developed as I wanted, so I added a few stuff, so to make it a little similar to Call of Cthulhu, for example. So since James Dasborough is doing his own thing now, he's doing Whitechester, he can't do the layout, so I talked to one of my friends who can work with that. So that guy is doing the layout for that scenario. which is called As Above, So Below. So that's my next thing. That's not a project anymore, not for me at least, because it's written. So I'm just waiting for him to finish the work. A few minutes ago, I released a preview. He has already started it, so it's probably not going to take him long. Next, I will write another scenario for postcards, which will take place in Portugal, in Lisbon. So it's in the near future. So it's not real Lisbon. It's Lisbon of the strange new future of postcards. It will be a big something like Las Vegas, but in Europe. So that's the next one. That one hasn't a name yet. I'm still working on it.
Hopefully better than Disney in Europe, right?
Yeah. Well, not better, worse, because it's supposed to look very bad. So they're very dirty. So then, okay. So these are the things I'm working now. I've already written two other, not two. They are 4 scenarios, but they are grouped in 2. So it's double features. 2 double features, horror scenarios, smaller. These ones are smaller because, well, there are 2, so each one of them is smaller. These ones are also written, but not laid out, and Jim will do the layout for this one, so we'll have to wait until he finishes his current project. So this will be probably released next year, I think. These are all horror. Grindhouse horror. So there's a zombie scenario, but I decided to give it a little twist, so there's too much zombie scenarios, so I decided to put this in Portugal also, in a summer resort in the 80s, so it's a little different. Then there's a vampire scenario. It probably will look like something like a Hammer movie. So then there's a spaghetti western, which it doesn't start like a spaghetti western. It starts like a group of actors, a movie team doing the western, but then there's something strange happening and they start to lose reality, enter the movie reality. So it's 2 in 1. Finally, there's another one. It's something like a Hellraiser type thing. There's demons and nasty things.
Cellites and the other
something like that.
Right. And that I can certainly see. That goes back to like Clive Barker and some of his writing. Style and because I was first introduced to that as probably a late teenager, early 20s, and it's kind of hard to believe that was that far that long ago, and his story writing was just like
I love Clive Barker. He's my biggest influence.
I could definitely see some of these more graphic or psychological horrors being more connected to his writing. Just like Cyberpunk is William Gibson, and you have all of these like writers that become like either the genre came, the RPG genre came out of their works, or their works kind of paralleled, that as well. But yeah, I mean, Clive Barker is a great author. Probably better than some of the others that are, much more well known. Yeah, I agree. Certainly for that kind of, I know you mentioned like Stephen King.
I don't really like him.
Clive Barker is, in my opinion, too, a much better author than Stephen King. Just that Stephen King is Stephen King. Everybody knows him, and but that there's less edginess. Than you have in Clive Barker's writing. So, I can definitely see that. Well, I mean, is there anything else that you
I'm working on something else. I'm working on a new setting, not scenario, a new setting for punk, also for punk, which is called Nouveau Punk. It's a period thing. It's in Belle Epoque, so this the same thing as Edwardian age. So it will be well. This one is a project in the writing, so it's I can't say much about it. I don't know. So it's a period thing, but it will be not really horror, but not really pulp. Also, it's I'm going to, well, among the things I'm using as inspiration is something. It's a comic from not comic, graphic novel. A French graphic novel called Adèle Blanc-Sec. There's a movie too, a movie 2015, 16 maybe. Not very well known, but I'm using it as an inspiration. Also, Umberto Eco. Umberto Eco's books are a good inspiration for that time. The Prague Cemetery, which takes place at that period. So that will be probably my biggest thing after the postcards, because the other things are smaller, not really small, but the same thing as the giallos. So 50, 60 pages.
Right.
So this will be my next big project. The other things are smaller, are just scenarios. And probably I'm thinking about doing other punk things, not cyberpunk. Definitely, that's very covered already. So, well, this nouveau punk doesn't exist, but it's art nouveau mixed with punk, so nouveau punk. I'm thinking about other stuff, maybe ray punk or something like that. But I'm not. That's just me thinking ahead, nothing definite. So that's it for now. Well, that's a lot of things.
That's a lot of things. Yeah. You have a pretty full plate, and the next plate is coming up is pretty full as well.
Yeah, I have 5 published, and I'm thinking about the next 5 already. So it's
So it's good to be busy. Really is, even if it's just mentally busy, but it's always good to be busy.
No, it's this creative stuff is good. It's therapeutic. So
yes. Okay, well, I guess we'll wrap it up here. I really appreciate you coming on, and really excited about getting my physical copies of your,
yeah, they look good. I didn't do the layout, they look very, very good. Better in paper format than PDF. James did a good job. Excellent job.
Yeah, well, that's really good. I should be getting it soon, actually. Within a couple of days. I know Lulu told me about 3 days ago that they've been shipped. So
they are quicker there.
I'll see. Well, they're quick because they do local printing.
That's not here, of course.
Print on demand. Yeah, I know. If it was coming from the UK or from any place in Europe,
I think if I choose
the would be ridiculous. It would be,
I choose I have to choose the costlier printing, but it still comes from France, I think. I'm sure.
All right. Yeah. The shipping cost was not that high, so I'm not thinking it's coming from Europe at all. But that's another thing.
I think it depends on where you live and the kind of shipping you choose.
Right. Yeah. So
the more you spend, the closer it is.
No, that's.
I think that's their business.
That's the calculation. Yeah.
I think that's how they work.
Yeah, that's the other, that's the other real issue and like a negative for the hobby in general, especially with our European friends and everything. Where I know James runs into this Modifius, which are obviously a much bigger publisher. They run into this as well. Is that to get things mailed over from Europe, anywhere in Europe, it's just astronomical. You could pay $30 American, or US, I should say, $30 US for a book that costs $9. To get. It's like so you got to buy it in bulk and get like whole things. That way it keeps the shipping cost a little bit down. That's a real problem. I hope that, sometime soon, uh, the governments can come up with some kind of a solution
For
to
us,
shipping
it's worse
between.
now because we could
Yeah,
a while ago we could order from UK and it would
yeah,
be quick, but since Brexit, well, it
right. Yeah,
now it's as if I was ordering from the other side of the world.
yeah,
Things get lost
yeah,
and you have to pay some tax and something. It's
yeah,
it's bad. So
yeah,
it's difficult.
yeah. So, yeah, I could definitely see that. So, well, thank you very much for coming on, and
My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And feel free to leave any comments on Discord or anything. Give me those tips about interviewing, and let me know, uh, how that went for you. And I will be. I'll double check to see if this will be a direct upload, like I said,
Hmm.
or embed it in to a presentation. I'm hoping I can embed it into a presentation. That way, I can show off like the covers and the links and everything
Hmm.
for your for your products. But regardless, the links to your product will be in either way I present it on YouTube. So that should be coming within a day or two. And then I'll reach out to you and let you know when
Okay.
it actually got uploaded. Okay. So
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure, and
yeah.
you are a good interviewer, so don't worry
All
about that. You don't need any
right.
tips.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on. And once again, to everyone else, take a look at Miguel's work. It's really impressive. I usually don't, I won't bring somebody on and interview them if I didn't already purchase their products and really impressed by their products. And so, that's my endorsement for, the work that you're actually doing. And the genre is something that's underserved, I would say. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
that's another real good reason to take a look at what he's doing and other projects with Postmortem, which kind of run along those same lines of, horror, period horror, and that kind of thing as well. So, again, thanks for joining,
Thank you.
and you have a great rest of it's almost the weekend. So have a great
Yeah.
weekend coming up.
Nice weekend
All right,
for you too.
all right,
So
and stay safe and keep on gaming. Keep on writing.
yeah, I will.
All right. All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
And so there you have the full interview. And as I said in that last portion. Oh, let me make sure I have my right. Um, so there you have it. I can switch over. And so once again, great interview. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Miguel was great. Really interesting to hear his story, and to hear how the hobby exists there in Portugal and how it's different. How in many ways it's the same. Uh, Really cool how our interests and our coming into this hobby was very similar in some ways. So once again, thank you to Miguel for coming in on the channel and talking about his thing. So let me just switch over and show you a few things. So these are both on Lulu and on Drive-Thru where you can find his products. So here we have his. So this is his Drive-Thru page, and you can link through Drive-Thru right through my channel, and it'll bring you right to you. Just do a search, So I searched it. The easiest way to search it, just to get his stuff, is to just type in Miguel Ribeiro, and you will get right to his page here. So you can see some of these he mentioned. So he has these giallos, which are kind of adventure books. And like I said, I'm waiting for the first one to come in. They're very reasonably priced for $4, $5. So far under $5 for the giallos. And then this here is this here is Welcome to St. Cloud, which he had mentioned as well. The PDF here is $8.99. Again, once again, very reasonable. And the postcards from Avelidad, which was the game that he spoke about the most. This is, I guess, his most recent project that he has released. And this is the one that's like 202 pages long. Really, really interesting. Just for $11, basically. Now, you can also go to Lulu, which I believe I have to do this switch here. And I think I have to come back out and double check to make sure that it's there. And yes, it is. So here on Lulu, I did the same thing. Just type in his first and last name, and it'll come up. And here you see that James Desborough assisted or proofread or possibly edited along with it. And here are all for the printed books. So $7.99, $12.99, $8.99, $8.99, and $17.99. And then this is not his. This is somebody else. But anyway, so you have these here that you can get the soft cover for. So really, really good stuff. And like I said, as soon as I get them, I'm going to switch screens here. I am going to do a full review of the, of the products that I bought in hard copy or, soft cover. And I'm pretty sure I picked up the Sisters of the Seven Sins and St. Cloud. So I'm pretty sure I picked up those two. So as soon as they come in, I'm going to give them a full read through. Always like to have the physical copy because for me it's very difficult to read through a PDF and then to do a review based on a PDF review. So so I like to have the hard copy in my hands, and then I'll go through the PDF as I do the video itself. So again, thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give it a thumbs up if you had. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them there. If you have questions or comments for Miguel, leave them there, and I will direct him to this to the channel and to the actual video, so that he might feel inclined to respond directly there as well. And once again, you can go to either Lulu Press or Drive Through RPG and pick up his products. So again, thanks for joining. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe out there, and I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen sometime soon. Have a good day.